Welcome to Papa's Workshop. Well, in this video, I'm doing some experiments. And one of the things that I really like to do is be able to experiment behind the scenes and test out things and see what works and what doesn't work. One of the questions that I've had is, how do you cut through plywood? And can you cut through plywood with a diode laser? Well, today I can say, yes, you can. Now I'm using the FoxAlien 40-watt Reizer Laser, and I'm using 3mm plywood to be able to cut this out. And I have the settings today to be able to show you and to give you the exact steps that I used to be able to make this Christmas ornament. So let's get started. This video is made possible in part by my Patreons. And if you would like to be able to become part of the Patreon family, please go to patreon.com/Papa's Workshop. Now this video is showing a lot of the behind the scenes that normally I don't show. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun today to be able to cut through this 3mm plywood. Now this project began over at Google search, and I wanted to be able to find a nativity scene. And this is the one that I settled on. So what I did is I just copied this over into Lightburn, just like this, and then I went and did the trace bitmap. And I have shown this on many occasions in the various videos that I have done. From there, I saved this, and then from that point, I went ahead and closed this out, and I opened up Lightburn. And when I brought it into Lightburn, I went ahead and just put this image into this circle. The only thing that I had to really do is just trim these little spots right here so that it would create these little pockets that would drop out. To be able to use the trim key, all you need to be able to do is just when you come over here to the edit nodes, you have a whole list of different commands, and T is what you use to be able to trim it. So it's literally being able to come over to this line, hover over that in the edit node mode, and click on it, and it will delete that line between that space. Once I had the image, yes, I had to play with the power settings to be able to get it to be able to engrave. And I started out with too low of a power and too fast, and I had to be able to slow it down. Now, setting up the image actually was quite easy. The power settings is what was the interesting part. Now, I started out at 20 inches per minute with 85% power and 4 passes. And the results, well, it didn't work. But here's the behind the scenes of how I set it up. Now this is a 3mm plywood, and I'm setting the height for my Z-axis right at the 30mm. I wanted to be able to have a good starting point. Then I framed it. Wanted to make sure that it would fit on this little scrap piece of plywood. And then from there, I went ahead and hit the engrave. Now I am using the FoxAlien Reizer, and I do have it turned all the way up to the maximum. And from there, I'm starting the engraving process. This part actually looks good, but you got to keep in mind, this is the exact setup that you would use just to do a normal engrave, not to actually cut out something. So after the 4 passes, it looks beautiful, but it did not cut all the way through. So what do? Not touch anything, and I just hit the engrave again. And I ran it through 4 more passes. And it did not quite cut all the way through. So it was time to make some changes. So I made the changes and ran this same exact piece through yet one more time. Now keep in mind, it's already had 8 passes at the higher speeds and the power settings. So yeah, this did cut through very quickly. And it did a good job. But here again, that's still not a true test. So this is some behind the scenes work that you normally don't get a chance to see, because I just show you the end result of actually what does work. But you can see that after making the changes, it does cut all the way through. But let's get down to the real part and show you the settings that I used, and I want to start a brand new project so that you can see actually how it works. Oh, one more thing I do want to point out is that with the new settings, it cut through literally 1 pass. But just remember, I already had 8 passes at the higher settings. So you can't forget that. So this was just a fun part that I wanted to be able to show you. Now this is rare footage that I normally don't show, but this is the result of this test, with this scrap piece being run literally 3 times through to be able to get this result. And you can see the pieces just fall right out, and it's perfect. Now that one little tip on the star, you can see actually burned, so it definitely overburned it. But as far as the overall cut, does look really good. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put a brand new piece of the 3mm plywood onto the laser. And I want to be able to change the settings and be able to show you exactly what I did. In the first step, I want to go ahead and frame this so I know exactly where this engraving is going to take place. And I want it at the bottom of the corner of this plywood. Now I'm going to slide it over so I don't waste a lot of plywood, because I do want to get more than one ornament out of this. So I'm going to move it right down to the edge. So I'm framing it now a second time. I think that's going to look pretty good. So that part is now done. The next thing I want to do is change the height. I'm going to lower this down to the 30mm and then lower it a little bit more, actually to about 27mm. As far as the settings, I'm changing it. I'm not doing this in 4 passes. I'm changing it to 3 passes. As far as the power settings, this is 5 inches per minute and 95% power. So let's go ahead and engrave now. So this is how this project is turning out, and it's looking really, really good. Now this is a true test because it's a brand new piece of plywood, and I ran it just the one time. And you can see that the project just falls right out of the plywood. And these pieces pretty much will do the same thing. You can see how it's engraved or cut all the way through. And I'm just going to take this little pointer and just push this plywood on out. And it just pretty much falls out. So that's looking good. One little spot right there I want to be able to clean up. This little small piece right here just pushes out, as do these small pieces right here. I think the 3 passes work real well. I think if I went to a 4th pass, I think it would be just too much. So these little pieces just to be able to punch out, not a problem at all. I think this is absolutely great. So 5 inches per minute with 95% power, and 3 passes worked real well for the 3mm plywood. So you tell me, leave me a comment on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Thank you for watching the video today, and I hope you was able to learn something and realize that the 40-watt laser, yeah, it can do a pretty good job, and this adds yet another dimension to the projects that I'm capable of doing in the shop. Now I want to be able to do a whole bunch more of these type of Christmas ornaments, because the ones that I did last year were all just engraved onto the plywood. This year I can add a whole new dimension and actually be able to cut through. I can actually put material behind it. It just opens up a whole wide range of possibilities. So let me know in the comments below what type of projects that you're working on for Christmas and how you're using this type of technique in your shop. So again, thank you for watching today, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next project that I'm doing, whatever that may be. Let's get the Christmas decorations going. Christmas is my favorite time of the year. I love doing these types of projects.